I kind of begrudgingly respect just the dedication to not getting better at what you do for a living. Just coast through life.
It probably shouldn't even happen.
If you got it, you got to flaunt it, Acid.
You know what? I got a lot of stuff that I don't want to flaunt, and so I just keep it to myself.
Jeremy is really big into the used mattresses. Excellent deal.
He has a used mattress store on the side. And we found out that Anthony's friends are all 13-year-old boys. Nice.
Whoever wins gets Acid's ball soap. Clay, how you doing?
Doing a little more poorly after that terrible, terrible introduction. I was just fine, to be honest with you.
Hello, Sci-Fi Gangsters. This is a show where we talk about science fiction, comic books, and video games, but really it's just an excuse for me to catch up with my friends, old and new. I'm Anthony Dennar, media scholar and person who had to lay down for an hour after reading this man's list of the greatest sci-fi films of all time. I disagreed with it so much that I had to lay down and take a break from it. Of course, I am making a joke about a commenter on your list. Will, that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about Will's very impressive list where he actually ranked out the top 100 sci-fi films of all time. You can check that out, that whole list on sci-fi-gangsters.com. It's in two parts because the lists are so long. Yeah. And of course, Will, we know when you make a list, you don't play around. You don't just write one or two things. You go to town with this, right?
Yeah. I mean, I get shade about every article I write for being too long. And I figured even just listing out just 100 movies, that's all it said, like number one, this movie, number two, that movie, and that was all, would be long. So I said, well, why not? Let's just make it really long. So we're going to have all these things. And there was going to be even more, but I didn't want to drive myself completely insane. So we stuck it where it was. But it was long enough in that version. So, I hope people enjoyed it, and I hope people were able to get through it without needing an oxygen mask or anything.
Right, definitely. And my favorite part of the list was like how many honorable mentions did you have on there? I was like, all right, here we go. Before we even get to the list, there are like 10 honorable mentions with their own little paragraphs.
Yeah. Oh, there's 30. Because I had a huge number of movies on this. Movies that I'd seen before. All of us, I think, watched a fairly good amount of science fiction movies, or have in our lives. And then there were several that I'd been kind of wanting to see. And then a few that I dug up that I'd never really heard of. And then I started kind of digging around, seeing what other lists look like, or looking through IMDb and seeing what's there in their like little genre sections, and found some gems. A couple of them made the list. I had 170 something that I actually ranked loosely, and then there were more like movies like Predator 2 or some of the Star Trek sequels that didn't make the list that I've seen a bunch, that probably are better than some of the ones that I did have on the list, which are just movies that I watched now. So it stretched out pretty far, and it was really tough to level off at 100, and I thought that there were a few that I at least wanted to just mention in the honorable mention, and 30 kind of ended up being a nice round number. I felt like there was a pretty clear drop after 30. So,
well, that's what we're here for. This is what this episode is designed for. It's for us to take this list down, right? Just to pick it apart. Just tell you why you're wrong, and how dare you put films in order the way you put them. No, yes. Actually, we'll all be contributing. I think we all kind of have our own top 5 sci-fi films. We'll kind of go through this. I'm actually going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm actually going to be just commenting on your list in general because in all reality, I don't disagree with your list very much. Right. So there's a couple nitpicky things that I do want to point out. So I'll kind of be doing that while everybody else kind of does their own version of their top 5 sci-fi films of all time. All right, so that's what we're doing today. Before we get started, I will say that like every episode, first things first, we need to catch up first. I want to catch up with my friends. I want to find out what's new. Of course, we got Acidtrain. You can follow him on Twitch He's been doing a lot of Twitch lately. I follow him, and every time I get like another notification, it's summertime. Acid, is that right?
It is summertime, correct?
I saw that you one of your Twitch streams was you exercising.
Heck yeah, I was on the treadmill. Why not? You know, I get a lot of viewers come in to keep me company while I walk my hour.
I like it. Perfect. Excellent. Of course, we have Jeremy here, good friend of mine, Jeremy. Me and Jeremy are going to go on a trip together. Just me and him. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean,
it's a romantic getaway.
A group of us are going on a trip to Orlando. We still haven't figured out. I think we're doing Universal Studio. I'm not sure what we picked yet. Anyways, that's not the topic of today's episode. But Jeremy, how you doing?
Not too bad.
All right, a man of many words, Jeremy.
3 words, not too bad.
But no, we'll catch up first. And of course, I always start. I kind of want to share my story of going to urgent care because it's actually kind of funny. So if you weren't familiar, I have been kind of dealing with some sickness the past couple of weeks. I've been getting down with the sickness, right? And I was tired of getting down with the sickness. So it was probably about 5 or 6 days that I was kind of under the weather. We had family over, and of course, there's all the kids are sniffling, and then I get sick, right? And as about 5 days go by, I'm like, I'm kind of tired of being sick. I just want to go somewhere and get a steroid shot because steroid shot worked pretty well for me. If I get a steroid shot, I'm kind of good. I'm good to go. So I was like, I'm tired of being sick. I'm going to go to urgent care. Usually I go to the AU Medical Clinic because that's where I usually go because I am employed with Albany University. So I go there. But they have the weirdest hours, right? So this was a holiday. So technically, it was a holiday. So they were closed. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to wait another day. I'm just going to go to urgent care. So I go to urgent care, and of course, I was like, if there's not a lot of people in the waiting room, I'm just going to go home. I get there. There's probably about 2 people. I'm like, this is not bad. Of course, it didn't include the 20 people who were in all the waiting rooms inside urgent care. But it took forever, is what I'm trying to say. It took forever to get to it. And let's just say that the staff there was less than patient with everybody. So first things first, that they take me back there. They're doing the temperatures and all that kind of stuff. And she's asking me a lot of questions, the tech, and I'm sure she's dealing with a lot of like people who are, who are rude and sick and bad mood or whatever. But she's asking me all these questions, and obviously they're COVID related questions. So she's getting through all these questions, never asked if I got vaccinated, not once. So she's asking all these questions. So I'm like, maybe this would be information that she should know, right? So I go, by the way, I am vaccinated. And she looked at me and she goes, that doesn't mean you can't get COVID. Like in that tone, I was like, what happened? What did I do? This is literally information that would be good to know. But anyway, she wasn't interested. I'm sure it's because she gets a lot of like anti-vaxxers that come in and everything. She's kind of dealing with that stuff. But that's the first thing that happens. I was like, okay. So they send me back there. I'm there for about 2 hours, just waiting for someone to come in. The tech person comes in. The tech person who came in was one of those people who expects you to do things without telling you to do them. And they're just kind of waiting for you to do it. I'll kind of give you an example. So I finally did get a shot. It wasn't a steroid shot because they were out. So the whole reason I went there and waited for 2 hours, they didn't even have a steroid shot, but they give me the antibacterial or whatever antibiotic shot. So the tech comes in and she's like, I'm going to give you your shot now. And I go, okay, yeah, right. So I was expecting it. She comes in and I'm just waiting for her to do all the things. Like she's getting the needle out. She's injecting, getting everything ready. And then she just stops and looks at me. I'm like, okay. And then she says, you're going to have to pull your pants down. I'm like, I realize this. I'm waiting for the cue. I'm not just going to sit here and go, all right, just let me know when you're ready. I'm not going to pull the pants down without the pants down cue. It was like the weirdest thing. Everyone there was expecting me to do things without telling me to do things.
Good old
but anyways,
care.
I finally got the antibiotic shot, which
sounds like the emergency room is less painful than what you just experienced.
It's this particular one. It's this particular one in Auburn. I'm not going to say where it is. It's the one in Tigertown. It's a particularly bad one. Every time I've gone there, I've had a bad experience there. But I think they're always underemployed and everything. It's a whole big mess there. So I
The one
finally
in
got
Moore's
shot.
Mill is really good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why did you go to that one since y'all don't live close to it anymore?
Every other one was closed.
No.
Because it was one of those. It wasn't July 4th. It was like July 3rd or something like that. So technically, so I actually went to another one because it said online that it was open, and I get there and the door's closed. So I'm like, all right, I'm already out and about. I'm just gonna go to this other one. Huge mistake. But I did get I got my Z pack. I got my other stuff, and of course, I went to the movies with Jeremy, and as soon as I was out of the antibiotics and steroids, I got sick again. So I was sick for another 2 days. After that ran out.
Goodness.
But now I'm fine. So there you go. There's the story.
He's had his margarita and he's good to go.
I'm good to go. I'm not going to pull down my pants when you walk in the room and just wait with my pants down.
You should have your pants already down before they even walk in.
That would be so weird.
You could have gone in there without pants at all. You should have just walked in the door to the clinic.
No pants. I like this plan. That's a good plan.
Anyways, so I had to share that story because
That's
it was
funny.
a very frustrating experience.
You have your pants down now.
Right now. I've learned my lesson. I always just pull my pants down. Whether someone tells me to do it or not. But we'll go ahead and move on to Acid. What's new with you?
What's new? Let's see. It's been a very strange, mentally exhausting week for me. I don't know why, but for some reason I just can't get on the ball mentally this week. Like I know, like my daughter's going off to camp next week. She leaves tomorrow for a week. She's headed to Tuskegee to go like build wheelchair ramps and like not renovate, but do some home improvements for some of the folks there that need it, and watch some kids and feed some folks, and just do some stuff for a week that helps their community. So we've been getting ready for that. My mother-in-law and her husband came today for dinner, which is just, that's all. I mean, and then, and I am an official uncle now. My wife's brother had their first child, so I don't have any full brothers or sisters. So I'm an official uncle now. He was here. I guess it's been 2 weeks now, so it's been a couple of weeks since then. But we did get our date to where we start back busing on August the 4th. We'll go in August 4th and 5th to get our routes and clean up our buses and all that good stuff. So we'll be doing that. And I bought a strawberry plant that I'm gonna give a strawberry plant a go to see if I can make some strawberries.
Excellent.
So yeah, other than that, I've been trying to, I don't know, pump myself up mentally. I've been so out of it for like the last week, so maybe I can get back in the groove. And like you said earlier, I've been walking a good bit. Of course, I've been streaming that, so I'm just trying to get my energy levels back up. So.
Well, very good, excellent. All right, there you go, Acid. Jeremy, what's new with you?
Let's see, did a little traveling this week.
You've been doing a lot of traveling this summer. Is it mostly work, or is it kind of a mix between work and leisure?
It's a mix. So it's there was a lot of work trips that got canceled last year, and a lot of personal trips that got canceled, and they're just doing all of them now, I guess. But the highlight of my week, and this is gonna break Acid's heart. I finally managed to get hold of a PS5.
Oh, finally!
Oh, wow!
Did you spend more than $5,000?
No, I got it at cost. But not only did I have to buy it.
Oh, you bought it at GameStop, didn't you?
I had to join GameStop Pro to be able to buy it.
Why?
Wow.
Why did they tell you that? Because I'm sure it was a straight up lie, but why did they tell you?
No, they were only selling it to Pro members. So if you were Pro, you got access to it, early.
Sure.
Sure. And you only, the normal people only got
Us Freeman.
A little inside
Access
tip. That was
after
a
the fact.
straight lie. That was straight up lie to you to get extra
Well, I mean, it's
15
coded in the
bucks.
website, so
Is it really? Are they really doing this?
yeah. I mean,
Man,
that's
they are
the way it works.
skeevy. Man, they just need to go ahead and drown. That's what they
Yeah.
need
So
to do.
even after I joined the pro, I had to log back out, then log in for it to take effect. But I managed to get one. It's a
Oh, I'm glad you got one.
it was unfortunately it's a they were only selling the package deals, so I got an extra controller that I don't really care about. I
If
got
you
a
don't,
Ratchet Clank
I may buy
I
that
don't really
from
care
you.
about.
I may buy that controller from you if you don't want it.
Okay, yeah, well,
I need a
it
new,
was supposed to
'cause
be
it'll
today, but
It'll
FedEx
work on my PC. So.
didn't do it, so it'll come in tomorrow.
Sweet.
Well, congratulations, Jeremy. We know that's been a constant struggle for you. Yeah, for you. You've been bringing it up several times on the show, right? I don't think I'm going to get the next generation console until I can walk into a store and go, "Oh, look, a PS5." Like, I think that's when I'm going to get one. I'm not going to worry about it until.
Yeah, I mean, I said that until they said that literally might not happen until 2023. So,
which just means the PlayStation is going to be, or this new one will be around for quite some time. So I don't think with this kind of struggle from everybody trying to get one, I'm kind of predicting that they're not even going to worry about a PlayStation 6 for at least 10 years from now.
We'll find out.
yeah.
That's
All
just
right,
a
Will.
guess.
All right, Will, what's new with you?
Well, I wrote this crazy list that we're going to talk about. It took a while. Aside from that, we were able to stay caught up on Loki, which is not always easy for us to do nowadays. We didn't watch the Captain America, the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, so we haven't watched that one yet. Stay caught up on Loki. We got a toddler transition into a bed, which is
Nice.
very good, but also an adventure. So you have these things. We'd like to take him on dino hunts around here. I guess in the I'm in Gwinnett County, Georgia, if anybody is curious, and they have dinosaurs stashed in some of the public parks here, like little fallen dinosaurs. Cool. So taking him to find them is always a nice little thing. It's tiring, but I should get in better shape. So maybe we'll start with that. But so it's kind of the thing here in the summertime. The Atlanta machine cranking back up when it comes to people going back to work in their offices more, which makes the traffic fun and makes the whole area fun. But I stay home because I work from home. I was working from home before all this. I was a hipster about it, and it's a transition. Even this far into it, I'm sure everybody probably has dealt with a little bit of this to some extent who's done it now. That it's a transition and it's something that you kind of only sort of get used to, but also it keeps me off the roads in Atlanta, which is a plus. So there's pluses.
That's a big plus.
Well, in the fall, in the fall, I'll be one of those people that you hate. I'll be the ones returning to commuting to Atlanta. Everything will be going back to normal, right?
Yeah, that's right. Back to normal. Now I'm way on the far side up here, so if you're commuting all the way up here, you're commuting a mighty long way.
Yeah,
I hope that's not what's happening. But so and we're possibly planning a new project here involving the group, but I'm not going to get too much into that, just because I just finished this one and my brain needs a reset, and then we'll push forward from there when my brain is back in its proper place.
All right, well, excellent. Once again, you can check out that list, sci-figangsters.com. Go through it, leave a comment, tell Will how wrong he is for putting 2001: A Space Odyssey. It needs to be here and not there, right? So make sure you do that.
Isn't that literally what we're about to do?
That is literally what we're going to do. That's what we're doing. That is
you all do it in that voice. That's what I'm here for.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Do your research. So that's where. By the way, Loki is the first television series where my son was all in.
Really?
Like he during the day, like during the weeks. Is the next Loki out? It's like, no, it comes out on Wednesday. It's like, is it Wednesday yet? Like I'm telling, like it's the first time that in his life where
Yeah.
he's been kind of like all in on a show and wants to sit down and watch it with me and wants to rewatch it and everything. So he loved it. He loved it.
I will say, just for me, I'm actually trying to play some catch up too. I've been watching because you can go in Disney Plus and watch the MCU in chronological order. So I started from Captain America and I've made it to what did I just finish? Ultron, Avengers. So I just finished that. So I'm moving. I'm going strong. I'm going to keep going.
Excellent.
I think
That's like years of work that you're
I
gonna
know
have to.
it is.
That's
Never.
more
And there's a
impressive
couple
than
of them that I've seen already. Like I've watched like Iron Man 1 and 2 before, but it's been so long, so I just rewatched those. And but I don't think I've seen anything past Age of Ultron other than WandaVision. I think that's the only thing that I've seen that's past that. So I'll maybe we'll do a show on that. I don't know. We'll
Very
figure
good.
something
Jeremy, are you caught up on Loki?
No, I still haven't watched. I mean, I watched the pilot the day it came out, and yeah, I haven't felt compelled to really see it. Like I keep hearing, the things that happen, so I need to sit down and watch it. But
It might be better than WandaVision. It might be better than WandaVision.
It might be.
I mean,
But
Yeah.
the soundtrack is amazing. The soundtrack is.
Yeah.
I was going to kind of mention this earlier, but so the Will, you might be able to vouch me on, agree with me on this one. Does the opening to Loki, like the opening title song, doesn't it remind you of Clockwork Orange? The opening to Clockwork Orange, like just
The little. Yeah, I can see that.
yeah,
Yeah.
always,
Because they mix in some things. So there's some real grandiose music, like full brass section, like really dramatic, sweeping stuff. And then there's this much more sort of smaller scale, like TV theme. Like the actual title screen is very much lighter piece, and it's a good mixture that they come up with for it because it kind of catches the show that's all about variants and these different versions of Loki who range from a quasi-heroic version that we've kind of gotten used to, even though he was, well, I'm not going to ruin it for Acid Train, but the quasi-heroic one that we've been seeing over the course of the mainline MCU and then all these different versions that the show is throwing at us that harken back to when he was a villain to start with, and then just weirder, odder things that go beyond that. So it really kind of catches the feel of all that.
well, very good. Well, that's what we're talking about today. Today, we're talking about the top science fiction films of all time. Once again, check out Will's list. Very extensive, right? He thought it out before he put it on there, is what I'm trying to say, and we're going to pick it apart, right? Well, that's what I'm going to kind of do. I know you guys are kind of doing your own thing with your top 5 list. I'm just going to do 5 things that I noticed about Will's list. All right. The first one, and this is the most egregious omission on this list. Egregious. And I went through it to make sure. Maybe it was on there, but I don't think it is. Arguably the first science fiction film ever made. A Trip to the Moon, 1902, by George Méliès. Is that on your list? Or did I miss it, or did you not?
I mentioned it in the intro. It's ruled out because it's not feature length. Because I had some parameters that I put on it because it needed to be an hour long or more.
Well,
That's a wonderful movie, and it's on YouTube. I think for anybody who wants to see it, if you've never seen it, it's been referenced visually a lot. The Smashing Pumpkins video is the main thing I think people think of with it for Tonight, but it's been referenced a whole lot more than that. And there's also a really enjoyable Martin Scorsese movie called Hugo that's about where George Méliès is a character in the movie, and it kind of goes over that era of the early days of film in France, and that's also worth seeing. But Trip to the Moon is it's good. There were 2 shorts, that one and then a movie called La Jetée, which is the movie that's the basis for 12 Monkeys. And if you've never seen La Jetée, I don't think it's on YouTube, so you may have to track it down in a more, official channel, essentially. But that's also very interesting, like a collage of still images that tells a very similar story to both the show and the movie of 12 Monkeys. Those are strong recommends, but I did rule them out because of the feature length thing.
Well, very good. So, A Trip to the Moon obviously it's 15 minutes long, and I know this because I show it to my introduction to film class every year. It's the first thing I show. So it's a nice 15 minutes, kind of like the very first. Many people consider it to be the first science fiction film of all time. Obviously, in 1902, you couldn't have, because of the reels, right? You couldn't have a long film, and that was probably the longest out of like the early films the short films that came out during that time. And it is on YouTube because I know it because I show it in class. I always thought it'd be funny if someone did a remake of A Trip to the Moon, but kept all of like the way, like the science. So like obviously in the Trip to the Moon, they shoot a bullet to the moon. That's how they get scientists into a large bullet, and they shoot it to the moon.
Nice.
Yeah.
And they're not in like, obviously not in like suits. They're just in like regular clothes, and like they fight aliens on the moon and stuff like that. I think it'd be hilarious, like a Will Ferrell kind of thing, where like you do like a legitimate remake of the film and kind of make it like a funny spoof. But yeah. There you go. Excellent. A Trip to the Moon. George Méliès. Anyways. All right. So, Acid, what do you got?
So I went on kind of what me and Jeremy were talking about earlier. I kind of went off of his theme. So I picked 5 of my top movies, and most of these were actually on your list. One of them was not. That I could just watch, and that if I watched no other movies or no other sci-fi movies, these would be the 5 that I would be able to watch over and over again. A couple of honorable mentions. E.T. is on there, and of course Galaxy Quest. Both of those were on your list. But my number 5, which also is on your list, is The Prestige. The Prestige was a really hit home movie for me when me and my wife first watched it. I was not expecting that at all. I mean, it blew my mind with the whole Tesla thing and how the magic was actually, how that was actually working and all the experiments that were going through it. And I was like, oh man, and everything just cut so deep. And Hugh Jackman did a fantastic job in that movie. So that would have been stamped very easily as my number 5.
Very good. Excellent. We're already starting our top 5 list here. Will, Jeremy, what's your number 5?
So I'm going to pivot a little bit because my 5 are similar-ish. They're all they're pretty much in Will's top 10 anyway. So I'm going to nitpick on 5 things that I noticed. So one is the inclusion of gravity, which I know everyone loved this movie, and I just didn't get it. Like when I watched in the theaters, like it's beautiful, right? Visually. But the sound, it was like being in a fight. Like it was just unrelenting. There was no kind of crescendo to the drama. It was just beating you over the head constantly. Yeah, I didn't get the appeal. And I also, if memory serves, she makes the wrong decision every single time. Am I remembering that correctly?
Will, I'll let you respond.
Yeah, well, I do want to comment back on The Prestige in a second too, but yeah, I mean, Gravity is one that I some of the points that you're making I understand because it is a harrowing movie, and there's a through line in this. So there's about 8 or 9 movies that I mentioned specifically in the write up that they were just absolute torture to make. This probably actually will be towards the bottom of that list just because it was made recently when there are laws and rules about what you can and can't do, as opposed to like Metropolis where they could basically kill extras and nobody in Germany would have cared. But yeah, Gravity is a almost torturous film. It's only 90 minutes long, which I looked that up when I was researching it. I watched it in the theater when it came out as well, and I could have sworn it was longer. I could have sworn it was 2 hours. Most movies with a big budget now are 2 hours plus. Sometimes they're like 2.5 hours. Sometimes there's Snyder Cut, they're 4 hours. But this is a 90-minute movie that won Best Director, and it is it is very short, but you feel like it's 6 hours long because it's just constant. There's like one little lull in the middle where she contacts Earth, and there's the little howling scene. And quasi, I don't want to spoil it, but George Clooney's like sequence in the middle of the film. If you've seen it, you know what I mean. Which sort of resets the film a little bit. But it is just pure disaster, basically, from about 5 minutes in until she crawls out of that thing and back onto the beach at the end. And that's not everybody's taste. I get it. I think that, I'm a big fan of Alfonso Cuarón as a filmmaker. Again, 2-time Best Director winner. He also directed what's still my favorite Harry Potter movie. I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan, but I really enjoy his entry, which is The Prisoner of Azkaban. Another one of his films is in the top 20, and I almost put it even higher. Because I had it actually lower and I kept moving it up, which is Children of Men, which is just an amazing movie. This one is the technical proficiency. I like the way it's acted. There are some scientific mistakes that, I don't want to get too Neil deGrasse Tyson-y, but it does kind of affect the movie like that. They admit they cut some corners to make the movie work, but Gravity is one of those I can understand if you don't love it, because it's a punch to the gut over and over again.
Yeah, and I just remember watching it. So I haven't watched it since the theaters because it gave such a sour taste. But to me, because it was being heralded as Sandra Bullock in this leading role in this astronaut role, and I was like, they have her making the wrong choice every single time, like leading to the destruction of all these things. So it just seemed to me like they were purposefully making the character incompetent.
There's a couple of issues with gender when it comes to Gravity, right? So, and it's kind of the same thing with Arrival, but in a different way, where it sort of implies that she's not fulfilling her role, right? Because obviously she has she loses a child, but it focuses a lot on her role as a mother in a space where this should not matter. And so it's like it keeps bringing this idea of like the woman's role is home with the baby. Like it keeps doing this. Arrival kind of does the same thing. I've actually written a paper on this where the take home message is you need to have this kid because you're the mother and you're supposed to do it, right? So I could definitely see how that's kind of an issue. But Gravity is definitely one of those films where it was way better when you watched it in the theater for the first time than it is if like a rewatch, because it doesn't hold up as much, in my opinion.
Yeah, I probably agree with that.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on to, I guess we'll just go ahead and go back to me because, Will, there's no reason because we're talking about your list and you're just responding.
What did you want to say about the Prestige?
Oh, yeah, Prestige.
Oh, yeah. I had it number 53, which doesn't sound that great, but that's really high. Christopher Nolan is a filmmaker that I have cooled on over time, although I did think Dunkirk was very good. But The Prestige is a sneaky good movie of his because it was before he became a brand. And really, it was The Dark Knight that made him a brand. That was his next movie. And I still really love The Dark Knight, even though, it's such a well-known, popular movie that people have their knives out for. I still really enjoy that movie a lot. The Prestige is good because it's not as maybe overwritten as I think some of his later movies can be. And it's very well acted. You mentioned Hugh Jackman, who is the ostensible hero of this movie, but he gets pretty dark as it goes, and to a place where you could argue that he's really the bad guy. Christian Bale is wonderful in a role where he had to do a lot without really telling you what he was doing, but it had to make sense what he did when the movie ended, and it does, and it really shows how good of an actor he is. I mean, I'm not going to spoil a movie that's 15 years old, but it's the twist there is right in front of your face.
Yeah, and it felt like at the end too. It felt like a very Sixth Sense moment, where it all comes together right there, and you're like, oh yeah,
it actually made sense.
Do what?
Yeah,
What'd you say?
Said it made sense, unlike the Sixth Sense.
It's one of the more successful narrative twists because it really does I mean, Michael Caine, again, if you won't know what he said, if I'm not spoiling it, but Michael Caine calls it out. He straight up says what it is, and that you don't believe him. The audience doesn't believe him, nor does Hugh Jackman, because it seems that can't possibly be it. But yet Bale himself called it out when he had an earlier encounter where before they had their rivalry start, where he was talking about another magician who was always performing even in public. And it kind of gets to the main gist of the write-up was it really comes down to craft versus showmanship. And, Bale's character is all about craft. It's all about the technical precision and the absolute just pure execution of what he's trying to do. And Jackman is not as talented as him, but he's much more showy, which a lot of times can be derided. But Jackman's argument is no. I mean, they don't come here just to watch somebody coldly go through motions. They want to see a show. And the whole thing becomes almost a weird riff on that, involving teleportation and David Bowie as Nikola Tesla, which is just such wonderful casting. And Andy Serkis is in this movie, not playing Gollum. There's just a lot of crazy stuff here. And definitely that's one to catch if you haven't seen it, because it felt like it should have been a bigger deal when it came out.
So when they actually came out, I remember liking The Illusionist more because they came out about the same time. But I'll see the Prestige on things, when I'm in hotels flipping through or something, but I don't hear anything about The Illusionist at all.
Yeah, it's faded.
Yeah, so it's the staying power of the Prestige is definitely up there, and I wonder how much of that is Hugh Jackman's, sort of name recognition increasing over the years. But
all right, very good. All right, so let's go ahead and get to our number 2 here, or our number 4, depending on how you want to call it here. So I'm going to do the nitpicky thing and go, this should be a little lower than it is. So I disagree with you and your placement of The Matrix. I think it's way too low. It's honorable mention, right? And the reason why I believe that it deserves to be lower, and we've talked about The Matrix on this show before. I think in many ways, I know Jeremy disagrees with me, depending on what you mean, it's a perfect film in a lot of ways, right? So it has the perfect arc for the character. It has a great ending. It's saying something about humanity. It has a lot of fun action sequences. It sort of propelled the genre in a new direction. It experimented with new technologies. It did everything a science fiction film is supposed to do. And really, I mean, we, as an exercise that we did, we rewatched The Matrix recently. In a lot of ways, it still holds up. Some of the CGI doesn't hold up as well when you rewatch it today. But for the most part, it's still a fun watch. It's still a great film. So I disagree with you in your placement of The Matrix.
That's understandable. That was what I was expecting some pushback on, because it's become a pretty divisive movie over time. It's really hard to think about it now and not think about both its own awful sequels and then also the glut of like knockoff movies, and not even sci-fi, but like action movies where you had the bullet time, and it really got overplayed like that. Like Mission Impossible 2 had some stuff in there with it. There was a Musketeers movie that nobody watched. It just really got watered down. That's not really this movie's fault, but yet it does feel like it. All that kind of plays into it. Your now 22 years later perception of it. When I was 14 when that came out, and it hit like a bomb in theater. As far as just like I've never seen action like this before. This is crazy. This is pulling the veneer back on what the world is. And a lot of movies in the late 90s that were sci-fi movies were like that. They were about the pre-millennial unease and unease with the advancement of technology, which has only continued since The Matrix came out. And a lot of stuff about identity. And I know that both directors have since transitioned gender since the film came out, which would be maybe just a footnote in it. But if you go back and watch it with those eyes now, the whole thing about his awakening could almost be read as a bit of a transgender sort of mission statement in some ways for two who were pre-transition at the time. It's just a really weird movie to rate now, because obviously it doesn't hold up to scrutiny at all. I mean, the idea of like using humans as a battery, and that's so ridiculous, even by science fiction standards. It's so ridiculous that you almost kind of laugh at it.
Yeah.
And the really super 90s cool, everybody wears leather and they got their little thin 90s sunglasses, and it kind of gets to that point of like, yeah, I mean, look, if you want to have somebody have ominous dialogue, Lawrence Fishburne's your best guy in the world at doing it. So they got him doing it. Carrie Ann Moss is really looks really cool with the short hair and the leather, and Keanu Reeves is the best ever at doing stuff like what he does in that movie, just underplaying all of his dialogue and hitting hard on the fight scenes. And,
I don't think it's intentional. He's just not a good actor.
No, he can be. I think he also can be overwhelmed by material like that. But the John Wick movies, I mean, were born here because his stunt double in this movie is the director of those movies, and a lot of the same ideas of how to choreograph action show up in those movies, which I enjoy far more than The Matrix. Yeah, I mean, The Matrix is one of those that some people hate it and think it's the worst movie ever made, and some people really love it and still think it holds up the way that it did when it came out. I'm kind of in the middle because it's obviously very influential, but at the same time, it's got a lot of holes in it. So it's kind of one of those. It feels right to be honorable mention to me.
All right, very good. I like the response. Acid, what's your number 4?
Number 4. I mean, it's just kind of short and sweet. I put in Men in Black. It was one of my favorite movies when it came out, and I really enjoyed it. And if I can't tell you how many times I've watched it over and over again. Just Tommy Lee Jones, Will Smith is just a great combo. Always has been. It still holds up. And it was fun. It was wacky. It was something that I've never seen before. It was just something new and a new spin and twist on some sci-fi, and then they added some fun to it. So that's why I threw it on there.
Yeah, I love that movie, and it was one of the movies that was like the first kind of blockbuster I remember really wanting to see. Mm-hmm. I was right at the perfect age for it. Again, the sequels sort of mar things a little bit because none of them have been nearly as good. Even though 2 and 3 in particular kind of replicate a lot of what 1 did, they just don't do it nearly as well. And again, I mentioned D'Onofrio is so funny as the villain in that movie with his entirely just deranged performance. Yeah. And Vincent D'Onofrio is great. I mean, we've known, going back to Full Metal Jacket, and then of course is playing Daredevil, playing Kingpin and Daredevil. You see the breadth of what that guy can do. He's great, but that's still one of my all-time favorites of his because it's insane to play a major franchise villain like that. And then you would never have thought that Tommy Lee Jones, who's maybe the grumpiest man in the world, and Will Smith, who is Will Smith, would pair so well, but they really do, and they really seem to like each other. That's why they've kept coming back for the sequels, and it's just, I don't know, it's weird in all the good ways, and I wish they would maybe just give up on this and do a TV show because I think that's the best way to continue the franchise. But that first movie that's a big one for me. I mean, I had it in like the 70s, I think, but it's one of the best sci-fi comedies, and it's a great 90s movie.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Jeremy, what's your number 4?
So one movie that I would put on the list, I think, that I didn't see anywhere is Sunshine. And I was just curious, Will, on if why it was omitted.
That's a good movie. I like that movie. And Danny Boyle, director of this, also directed Trainspotting, and he made Slumdog Millionaire. I think this was the movie before Slumdog Millionaire in his filmography.
Yeah, and it was written by Alex Garland. Yeah,
by Alex Garland. Yeah, he had one movie in my honorable mention and one movie on the list as a director, with Annihilation and Ex Machina. But I think Sunshine is good. It's beautiful. It's and you would expect it's very well filmed. It looks great. Even technology in the 14 or so years since it came out has progressed. It still holds up pretty well. Also, one of the first really good Chris Evans performances, which there was a point before Captain America, there was a point when he wasn't really taken very seriously. He was in the crappy Fantastic Four movies. He was in a lot of movies like Not Another Teen Movie and other kind of dopey, like sort of I'm a hot guy in a movie that's aimed at young kids, young girls, like kind of roles, and he plays like a real a-hole in this movie, and it's a nice show of his range, and a good cast around him. Cillian Murphy is in this, Rose Byrne is in this, Cliff Curtis is in this, Mark Strong does a great job in the thing that I don't like, which is in the third act, the movie completely changes what it is.
It does
so
change.
Before you say so, I actually have not seen Sunshine ever.
Okay, so
Neither.
It's one of those films that I always continually hear people say, "Hey, you need to watch this film. It's one of the greatest sci-fi films," and I still haven't watched it. So don't actually spoil it for me, please, because I do eventually want to see it.
Okay,
it does pivot hard, but yeah, like Chris Evans, sort of redemptive piece in it, and I think Cillian Murphy is the absolute perfect cast for that character and for that type of movie.
And Rose Byrne as well is wonderful in that movie. Rose Byrne is wonderful in everything. Michelle Yeoh is also in that movie, and she's always good. It's a really good cast, like actors who you always know are going to be good. Even at the time, if we thought Evans was kind of a dud, and then he is usually good. He just hadn't had a chance to show it yet, and he got to show it here. And I do think it had a hand in him really becoming a big A-lister, honestly, in the years following, because at the time it was a stunning performance because I didn't think he had it in him, and now it probably makes more sense. But there's that movie, and another movie which I'm going to preemptively jump on in case anybody mentions it is District 9. Is another movie that I enjoy, but I think the biggest flaw I have for both of them is that they are a thing for two acts that's very interesting, and then they are a very different thing in the third act, which I think weakens what came before. I think more egregiously in the case of District 9, but in the case of Sunshine, I don't know if they knew where to go with it in the third act, and they kind of invented what happens. It's not bad, but it's jarring. It is kind of jarring.
All right, very good. Yeah, District 9, it turned into an action film at the end.
Yeah. It's very interesting, like this apartheid obvious allegory, and very kind of low budget, low key, and then suddenly people are exploding. So I was like, okay, this is a hard turn. Again, it's not bad, but it's would have, I think, been better if it had stuck to its guns.
All right, not literally.
Yes,
because it did stick to its guns. All right, so we'll go ahead and get to my number 3 here. My gripe that I have with your list, and this is, I admit that my affection for this particular film has a lot to do with the series that was based on it as well, and that's Snowpiercer. So the reason why I like Snowpiercer so much is because the purpose of a science fiction film, in my opinion, is it needs to say something about us as humans or our social situation, right? And yeah, you can make the argument that Snowpiercer is a little too on the nose, right? Because the train is an allegory for our social structure, social hierarchy. So maybe it's a little too on the nose. You could also make the argument that has weird parts of violence, like just graphic violence out of nowhere. Like it's kind of very mellow and then and kind of heady, and then it just violence, particularly during the rebellion. And maybe the ending is a little underwhelming, although actually I do appreciate the ending of Snowpiercer. Should I not? I don't want to spoil it for anyone who has not seen the ending of Snowpiercer, which is very different than the series, which I also love. Will, are you familiar with the series?
I've not watched the series yet, although I am intrigued by it. I'm intrigued by the cast. And actually, my big problem with Snowpiercer, and this is one that I expected to like a lot more. A different film by that director, Bong Joon-ho, is on the list. That's The Host, which is in the 30s, and I really thought that was a great movie. And he also made Memories of Murder and then the Oscar-winning Parasite, which are great movies. If you've never seen either of those, absolutely make all the time necessary to see them. I cannot recommend. I mean, Parasite, I feel like people have seen now because it won all the Oscars. Yeah. It's just been a topic for a while. But Memories of Murder is from 2002, and it's a Korean film. It has a lot of the same actors that you see in his other works. and it is an unbelievably good movie. So I cannot stress enough that you should watch that. Going in, the Snowpiercer was his first English language film. I guess his only one at this point now. Chris Evans again. Now, by this time, more established as an actor playing in the lead role. A lot of good character actors in there. Tilda Swinton, all doing Tilda Swinton things. Octavia Spencer is here, and I was a little underwhelmed because I think that even though he fought really hard to keep the Weinsteins from cutting his movie, and the story that he told about how he did that is wonderful, the movie almost even still is too overstuffed. There's a point when he's telling about, I bet you know who that kid was, and then he refers back to a Jimmy Bell's character who you see for like 10 minutes in the beginning of the movie, and you barely even hear the guy's name. It's like that doesn't land the way it needs to, because the movie rushes really quickly to get through it because it has to, because there's a lot of story here. It's a big train that they've got to fight from the back up to the front. And like you mentioned the ending, which is an odd one. It's a good movie, and I think everybody should check it out. I am interested to see the series. The story itself and the series it's based on, I think it's a manga series it's based on, is also very interesting. Yeah. But I just think the movie needed to probably be about an hour longer to really be as good as it should have been, and it's decently long as it is. It's just a lot of story to fit into one movie.
Yeah, I agree. Excellent. Very good. Acid, what's your number 3?
I actually went with Back to the Future. Back to the Future was, like in your article, saying that when you think about time travel, Back to the Future is just kind of the movie you think about.
It's the movie. Yeah, it really is.
It's just, they just did so well. And I would honestly just put the whole trilogy right there, just kind of in spot. Because, as they get, crazier, like you said, with all the plot holes and all that kind of stuff that just kind of happen, it still doesn't take away, at least for me, it didn't take away at all from any one of those movies at all. So, but yeah, Michael J. Fox, fantastic. Christopher Lloyd, like you said, it just doesn't age. He doesn't age.
No.
I love it. So
yeah.
That's why I threw that up there.
Yeah, we're past the future year now.
We're
6 years past the future of that movie, and it still holds up. There's plot holes all over the place, and it's just not the kind of movie where that matters. Like Gravity, we talked about a plot hole there. It matters more because of this sort of verisimilitude of it being real, what could happen in space, and it's maybe not fair because it makes that kind of movie harder. But another movie that I expect to maybe hear about is Interstellar, and it's another movie where there's just a lot of that you get picked apart because the movie's trying to be something almost not documentary a lot, but very realistic depiction. So when there are mistakes, they stand out. Back to the Future doesn't care about any of that. It's pure popcorn fun, and his brother's going to the office on a Sunday for some reason at the end. That doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. There's a few of those that filter in there, but at the same time, I love the little gags. Like the uncle is always in jail no matter what. Christopher Lloyd, the faces that he makes, like the face he makes when the rags catch on fire in the lab, is one of the funniest things you'll ever see. And and the DeLorean is the worst car. It's the crappiest car.
But it made so much sense. This is great.
80s thing, and it hasn't aged, even though an actual DeLorean is just rusted away into the dust. The DeLorean in the movie it just seems right. I don't know. It's one of those movies where the magic is just there. It's just always been there.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Back to the Future by Acid. Jeremy, what do you got?
So the next one I'll talk about is I don't disagree with this being a great movie, and I think it's essentially a perfect action movie. I don't really classify it as great science fiction, and that is Mad Max Fury Road.
I was gonna bring up Mad Max 2.
Yeah, so I think it is one of the best action movies ever made. That happens to be dystopian, but I don't see it being great because of the science fiction elements.
Yeah, that's interesting. The thing to bring up, I mentioned it, I think, at the start. But the hardest part of this thing much harder than the movies or ranking them or anything like that, or even the writing it, which wasn't easy, is just knowing where the lines were. And I ruled out all comic book movies because it just becomes a morass if you do that, if you keep them in. And I really wanted Guardians of the Galaxy to be in there because I love that movie. Yeah. But I had to rule it out because it's, but then there's other lines that were more like, I mentioned in the Bill and Ted write-up that Bill and Ted 1 is in, but Bill and Ted's 2 and 3 are not. It's a very dumb thing to have to do, but you kind of have to do it.
Yeah.
Dystopian movies and things like time travel and time loops mostly were kept in, even if, you don't think of it initially as a sci-fi movie. There's a few on there I would say that you would probably think of as something else first, and then science fiction second or third or fourth. But I felt like if it passed the science fiction test, essentially, then it counted. And so that would include a lot of dystopian movies. And I had all 3 of the 4 Mad Max films are involved in some way. The third one is not bad, but I left it off. It's not as good as the others. And then, Mad Max, the first one is probably the least science fiction-y of the group, but it still is because it's almost an apocalypse in progress. But The Road Warrior and Mad Max Fury Road, 2 movies that I love and are very high on this list, were included again because they fit in a science fiction world, even though, they're action movies first. They're allegories about a lot of things really second, particularly Fury Road with its resource hoarding and the women's bodily autonomy thing, which is right up in your face in that movie. Yeah. But I mean, I still feel like it fits the science fiction because it talks about us in a place where we don't have the comforts of the society we have now to defend us, to keep us in line. And it shows how, in an extremely ridiculous way, it shows where things could go if we don't have those things. I don't know if flamethrowing guitars is necessarily in the future, if the world order break, but I wanted to kind of keep movies like that on the board because it's sometimes it's that insanity that's what makes a movie really stand out. There's a lot of dystopian movies out there. There's not a lot of movies like Mad Max Fury Road out there. And as I said, I stand firmly that it's the best movie released in the 2010s in any genre. Like, that movie is just amazing. It's amazing that it exists. It was also extremely hard to make. Everybody hated each other when they made that movie. But it's one of the 2 or 3 best film going in the theater experiences I've ever had. The part where the guys on the poles, and that sequence is just unbelievable. And then of course the sandstorm also. It's a movie that's just so good. I had to find a spot for it, and then a movie that good is going to be pretty high.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I agree. It's as close to a perfect movie as has come out recently. The other one that I kind of like, which is one of my top 3 favorite movies of all time, but I don't think of it as sci-fi, which is A Clockwork Orange, which was high up there, in kind of the same way, like dystopian crime drama, but it's not. It doesn't. When I think sci-fi, it doesn't click to me, instinctively as that being in that genre.
Yeah,
I would say Clockwork Orange to me fits more sci-fi than Fury Road. Clockwork Orange is more like it does sort of answer questions, or sort of it reflects our anxieties towards the future, right? And the degrading of society and sort of control and fascism and that sort of thing, right? So I definitely can kind of see how that sort of fits into a sci-fi kind of a thing, just more of like the thinking about our potential futures.
Yeah, not so much a technical advancement there. You don't really think about the technology in Clockwork Orange, but socially, I don't know if advanced is the right word, but socially we've moved forward in a way that really might be retrograde. The backstory on that, if anybody's from the book, which the guy who wrote the book doesn't even like the book, but he and his wife were assaulted on vacation in Malaysia by some American servicemen. This was not long after World War II. And so obviously the sort of the casual brutality of young men is such a big factor in the film. And I think he masks it by putting it in the future, like some kind of a future. It's one that's it's not super well defined. And I think, this is Stanley Kubrick, who was the most detail oriented filmmaker maybe ever. So if he didn't feel like it was important to define it, then it wasn't. And then the movie I think holds up without it. But again, it's one of those that I think it's a version of our future that reflects a present. And I feel like, to me, that's enough to put it in, even though, again, yeah, I mean, it's not a science fiction film first and foremost. It's not a science fiction film the way that, Star Wars is, or whatever. But it is, there's an undercurrent of it there that I think made it be put in. And if it's in, a film like that is going to be high.
All right, very good. And I will say this, arguably the greatest opening to a movie of all time is in Clockwork Orange. The greatest opening sequence, just like the slow, like, zooming in, or is it zooming out with that anyways. All right, moving on. Since Jeremy took my number 4 by bringing up Mad Max Fury Road, although I actually had more questions on how high it was. What was it, like number 20? I just felt like
6,
it was pretty.
right?
It's number 6. Yeah,
Oh, it was number 6. That's pretty high for a recent film. But yeah, so I'll just go ahead and mention this. There are several films on this list that I have never seen before, and I'm embarrassed that I've never seen them before. And I've heard countless times how great and how influential these films are. And of course, Brazil is one of them. It's a film that I've never seen before.
Oh man, dude, you got to watch it like tonight.
Yeah, Brazil's great. You should definitely.
People who like Brazil love Brazil. My goodness.
Like everyone who's seen Brazil loves Brazil.
I don't know if that's true, but anyways, actually, I have not seen Brazil, and I have not seen Metropolis. I've seen M by Lang. I've seen M.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I showed my history of film class, but I've never seen Metropolis either. So I just kind of 2 films I'm sort of embarrassed that I've never seen before, considering that I teach film classes. But
Metropolis is tough, and I mentioned it in the write-up. There's a lot of different versions of it because it came out and it's like 2 hours and 50 minutes long or so, and it initially wasn't that well received. And also, this is interwar Europe, so everybody had like a cause. And the film can be pretty socialist if particularly towards the end. So the rise of fascism in Germany, a very pro-fascist distributor just without French Long's consent, cut like huge swaths of it out. And that was the only version that existed for a long time. And they literally lost a lot of the other footage. So there's been a series of painstaking recreations of it. You can see one on YouTube is what I saw, which is about 2.5 hours or so. And it's the longest recreation that they've got, where they literally found film in like canisters in South America and New Zealand that they didn't even know what it was. And then they screened it. And it's like, oh, this is Metropolis. Oh, this is a Metropolis that we didn't even know still existed. So they had to piece back together. And you can tell the parts where it's from the version that people had seen before versus what's new. Because what's new looks terrible. It looks like way worse than the rest of it. But that's the best they could do to get it back.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a long movie, and it can be a hard watch because that is a whole different era of film and what film was supposed to be. It's silent. It's a very, everybody has that very heavy stage makeup on where their eyebrows look ridiculous, but it's just the way that movies were made back then. And if that's not something that interests you, then you might not have a great time. But I mean, visually stunning. Again, they almost killed a bunch of people making it, but that was the way it was, and massively influential, obviously.
Very good. All right, so Acid, are we at number 2 now? Is that where we're at? Acid 2.
Yep, this is number 2. This one actually did not make the list, which I was shocked just because I enjoyed it so much. And granted,
Take him down, Acid.
I'm not going to take you down. I mean, I will agree that the books are better than the movie. That's usually the case in anything. But The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is just a movie that I hold dear to my heart for some reason. I've watched it countless times, and and enjoy it and find different crazy stuff each time I watch it. And just you can't go wrong with it. I mean, it was so funny. It's so well put together, but it was so nice to see, and I watched the movie first before I read the book. Actually, I haven't Or as I say, it hasn't been that long since I bought the book and read it. But and I don't feel any sense of like, oh man, maybe I should have read the book first, or that didn't hit home at all. But
Yeah.
I still think that the movie still holds up and is still extremely enjoyable.
I enjoy that movie. I'm curious if you had read the book first, if it would have made you like the movie more or less, because I feel like that there's a big split there between people who read the book.
I'm not a person like my daughter, and I'll bring up Harry Potter again because they're big, huge Potterheads. My daughters watched the movies first before we bought them the sets of books, and she, of course, enjoys the books better. But I would say she's kind of like me in the aspect where it didn't really tear, one way or the other. Like, oh, it's just now it ruins the movies or whatever. Like, there's obviously not as much information in the movies as there are in the books, and you're missing some of the side story. Yeah, there'd be no way.
There can't be.
Yeah, there'd be no way. But and you're missing a good bit. But for a movie itself, for what it is, and going back to Hitchhikers, it just I think it captured what it needed to capture for me to enjoy what it was.
Yeah. I enjoy it. There's a bunch of different versions of it. It was originally a radio series on BBC Radio, and then there was a BBC TV miniseries in the early '80s, and then there's been all sorts of like comic book versions. There's been like album versions. They keep changing it a little bit each time.
Sure.
The big difference, I guess, between the movie and the book would be, and again, it wasn't a book to start with, which I think should be noted, is how much of the language, how much of the humor in the book in particular comes from sort of his wordplay, like just like constructing sentences in a way that you wouldn't even ever think this was a sentence, but it's funny.
Yeah.
And that doesn't translate at all in the movie, which, that's not necessarily a disqualifying factor. I know a lot of people in Britain were upset with the casting of so many Americans in it, which I guess I can understand. That it's a bit of national pride for them, that series, but weirdly, I think it's Arthur that probably drives me the craziest about it. He's the one British guy in the main quartet. Yeah. It's Martin Freeman, who is great. Martin Freeman's usually great in everything. They make him very off-putting in that movie, like much more so than everybody else. I like Mos Def as an actor generally, actually, and I like him as Ford in this. Sam Rockwell's really funny, doing a kind of a quasi Bill Clinton, George W. Bush riff as Zaphod, and then Zooey Deschanel's always great. But I enjoy the movie. I think that I think it's one of those that I looked at, and I had it, I think, somewhere on the list outside of where the honorable mentions were. But I still watch it whenever it comes on, like I did the other day. But it's one that I think could have maybe just been a little bit better with a little bit more work done on it. But Douglas Adams also died when he was writing the script, so you can understand that it didn't get maybe all the doctoring that maybe it would have gotten had he not died. So,
sure.
Perhaps we were robbed a little bit there. I mean, we're definitely robbed of the man's life, which was a real shame because he died young. And so, that one almost feels like a little bit of a what if he'd have been able to live through production. Could it have changed? They could have made the movie just a little bit tighter, a little bit sharper. I think probably so.
All right, very good. And of course, I'll say it. I say it every time, to the anger of everybody on this panel. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the book, one of the most overrated books in sci-fi history. All right, moving to Jeremy. Jeremy, what's your number 2?
So my number 2 observation is that I was glad to see it on the list because it is one of the oddest and most surprisingly satisfying movies that I've seen, which is The Lobster.
Yes.
Which Anthony, if you have not seen it and Acid, I would definitely recommend watching it. It is. I'm very, very happy that Colin Farrell left the sort of action star path he was on and turned toward more movies like this, because I think he's very talented, and I thought he played that role excellent.
Yeah, I really, and actually weirdly, that was one that I kind of wrestled with the way that you guys were talking about the Mad Max movies and the Clockwork Orange, because it's science fiction in the sense that it's a kind of a future, almost really a present, where a technology exists that absolutely does not exist. The difference is that they don't give any kind of a damn about that technology. It just exists as a plot device. They explain it none, and it just is sort of there as like a little bit of a shoe to drop, essentially, on some of the characters at the end, and it's almost comically underplayed. And I mentioned in the little blurb joke I have at the under the picture, it's like that basically the room where this unbelievable technology exists to transform a human into an animal. It looks like something at a Ramada Inn. It's just the most underwhelming looking room that you'll ever imagine.
Is that the picture you put up?
Yeah.
Is that what that? Okay.
Yeah, the transformation room. So
Yeah,
it's like, this is a transformation
like
literally where they could turn this man into a lobster that's alive and has the memories of him as a man. But yeah, it's not in any sort of fancy place. It's in this dopey hotel. The black absurdist comedy in that movie is just the best, and the people that they get to deliver it. I mean, Olivia Colman is a national treasure, and she's great in everything she's in, and she's really great in this. She would then win an Oscar for the next movie that this director made, which is The Favorite, where she plays Queen Anne of Britain. John C. Reilly is always wonderful. Can do anything as an actor, and he's very funny here. And then Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz are the lead couple, and their accents, which they don't get to use their real accents enough. You know, Farrell's always playing like an American hero or something, and he's very Irish. And Rachel Weisz, you know, sometimes gets to do the British accent, but a lot of times doesn't get to. And their accents here are just the drollest things imaginable, which for what the dialogue they're being given just makes it like 1,000 times funnier to me. So definitely a very weird movie. Yeah, there's a few other recognizable actors that pop up in it, but if you make time for it and make time to afterwards to think about what you just saw, because it's a very bizarre movie. It's one of the bizarrest movies that's been released in the last 10 years, but it's definitely a lot of fun.
Very good. Excellent. A film that I'll have to watch along with Brazil, I guess. The Lobster. All right, so let's go ahead and get to our number one. I was going to bring up the fact that I believe that Her is too high on your list, the film Her. Kind of surprising. I can't remember where it is on the list, but I remember it being pretty high.
23.
But we'll kind of ignore that. I just want to talk about Blade Runner being number one. And I agree with that. And obviously...
Did you know that it was going to be number one? I mean, because we've discussed that movie a bunch. I figured.
Yeah, I knew that. 2001: A Space Odyssey. Can't argue with that at all, being number two. Although watching it now, it is kind of a drag. Like you kind of have to like appreciate it for what it is. Almost like you're like sitting through like, yeah, this is extremely boring, but like just you have to sit and go through.
Yeah.
Because there are amazing scenes. The scene when he's deactivating Hal and Hal's singing the song, right? Daisy, and then he says, "I'm afraid." My goodness, that is an amazing sequence. And then of course the very end when he turns into the Star Child. I can't remember the name of the
Well, in the beginning, which I highlighted too. I love the beginning of the movie. I mean, the performances of those mimes, the apes, is really good. And you know, when we talk about, we should give Andy Serkis an Oscar for playing apes in like movies now, but these guys did it in the '60s, and nobody even they didn't even get like a costuming or makeup nomination from the Academy, because I think the Academy thought they were actual apes. That's long been the rumor, because Planet of the Apes came out the same year and won in that category. And honestly, the apes look better in this than they do in that. I mean, all the stuff with the bone, and then the development of the idea of weapons. And then the jump cut from the bone to the ICBM depository, which is important to note that that's an ICBM that actually existed at the time, and then it cuts to the future. So he wanted to highlight the bone of the past, the weapons of the now, and then the future. And he does it in very quickly for a movie that's so long. I mean, yeah, it's you got to be in the right mindset for it, which a lot of people weren't when it came out. But it's just such a beautiful movie. It is, and the music, obviously, the weird music that plays in the monolith scenes is so haunting. And then, of course, the famous like traditional score in the film. I mean, yeah, it's just one of those people. Again, you can watch it 100 times and you'll get something out of it each time. And see on the biggest screen possible, because it still looks great all these decades later. It still looks great.
Sorry, Dave, I can't do that.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to Acid. What do you got?
All right, so I put my number one as just the entire Matrix trilogy. I'm sorry, it's I would, if I watched no other movies forever and ever, I would watch.
I would
Matrix
rather
trilogy.
literally go blind.
I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those things. Either you love it or you hate it. Well,
They're not that bad.
I loved it. I loved every single one of them, and I know I get hounded when I say this, but each one was better than the last one. I mean, it just gets better, So I don't know. It went so well for me. There is nothing wrong with my opinion. Okay, there's nothing.
Sure,
wrong
no.
with that. But yeah, I mean,
the only one that has it.
and I think that for each person, you can take the Matrix in kind of like your own way, like you were saying earlier. Like, well, maybe it was, excuse me, maybe it was like that the gender role right there at the end. What were you were saying, like the reveal
for the director, the Wachowski.
Yeah. But I mean, you can kind of
yeah.
take that, however you want. But I think that kind of, if you're looking at it from that perspective, each person can kind of take away what they're going to take away, whether it be that or not. So it's, I don't know. I enjoyed it as a trilogy. I think Keanu Reeves is awesome. Let's go ahead and say it. And look at Jeremy's face. Yep.
Keanu Reeves is awesome.
Keanu Reeves as a human being,
he's an awesome dude.
Is one of the best people that have ever walked the planet. He is so nice. Actor. He is such a nice guy. But I enjoy his stuff.
Yeah. There are good roles of Keanu's. The Gift, Sam Raimi's The Gift, where he plays the redneck, like a-hole redneck guy. It's a completely out of nowhere role for him. He's great at it. There's times when he doesn't exactly rise to the occasion, but I don't know. He's kind of like a brand of his own. Like this, who else can be these Keanu Reeves characters? Who else can be Ted from Bill and Ted and Neo and John Wick, and then make it all believable. It's a very specific little niche he's got, but he's the only guy in it. He's made a lot of money doing it.
Yeah, and when you hear Keanu Reeves, you don't hear just like, oh yeah, that was Neo, or oh, that was he was from Bill and Ted, or whatever. Like he doesn't have that Daniel Radcliffe, like, oh, that's Harry Potter, or anything like that. So he can play different things and not just be tied down to one thing. It's kind of like a Hugh Jackman. You hear Hugh Jackman's name, you don't just. I mean, yeah, you might go to Wolverine, but you might think of The Showman, or you might think of The Prestige, or whatever. You know what I'm saying.
Very good. Excellent.
Matrix trilogy. Boom.
Of course, Jeremy enjoys the red pill narrative because he's a big in the alt-right. He's really big on Reddit. He likes. And yes, I've been reading a lot about this because I'm writing about the alt-rights in part of my dissertation. Oh, I have to continue here about red pilling. My goodness, these people are dumb. Anyways, Jeremy, what do you got?
So I'm going to skip over The Last Jedi thing because I've made my opinions about that very well known. So I'll mention some things. So when I think of like a top whatever list, so I think not only does the movie have to be good and stand alone, but also sort of, what does it inspire and bring into the public consciousness and things like that. So there's some classic ones. Relatively classic that weren't on the list that I, in a top 100, I think I'd probably had to put them there somewhere. So like Logan's Run, Soylent Green, Last Man on Earth, so movies like that have their problems and aren't that great as standalone, but are sort of in that tail or I guess even Omega Man was probably more popular than Last Man on Earth, but it's the same, same story kind of thing. So I think of particularly Logan's Run in my mind is, I think I'd have to have on there somewhere.
I watched it for this. I'd never seen it until about 6-8 weeks ago. It's on HBO Max, or was, if you want to check it out. It was a big hit. It was a very interesting idea. I really love the idea that the he plays essentially the bad guy. He really isn't a bad guy. But is Michael York's partner who chases them for much of the film. That actor really had like a very odd, specific career afterwards. He's in Dune. He plays Duck in Idaho in Dune, and he's also in Hunt for Red October, where he delivers some of my favorite Southern accent lines ever in film history. But like Logan's Run's definitely one of those movies that's very representative of a time. It's sort of a pre-Star Wars 70s. There were two kinds of movies in the 70s that were sci-fi before Star Wars. One was something very slow and long and meditative that, you had to like get into the sort of frame of mind to watch, like Solaris. And another would be something like this, which is much more kitschy and fun, kind of, and maybe a little weirder than he'd ever think that they were. And some of the ones you mentioned, the Omega Man, Charlton Heston's performance in the Omega Man, and his performance in Planet of the Apes, which was late 60s, are very dialed up, even by Charlton Heston standards. He's eating up some scenery in both of those movies. And the Omega Man would then go on to be the basis for I Am Legend with Will Smith, which originally kept the ending that you see in the other movies and then changed it, which kind of ruined that movie. But I hear what you're saying. Actually, I feel like I probably stand pretty hard for like 50s and 60s B movies more than the 70s ones, which may be more of an era thing. Because there are a lot of those 50s movies that I really think people should watch. They may sound dumb, but some of them are dumb, but they were executed in a very impressive way for the time. Them would be one that was just snuck in the top 100. Maybe some of those got in at the expense of some of the like early to mid 70s kind of movies, because there's its own little stretch of films there, like Soylent Green, which is again a very weird movie, much weirder than the twist everybody knows because of the ridiculousness of the line.
They're people.
Like there's some the scenes that the things that they have to watch on their screens at home are this like very expressionistic like film that the government or whatever makes them watch. It's there's some baffling stuff in there, but it's some interesting stuff.
That always reminds me of that SNL skit with, I think it was Phil Hartman, where it's like Soylent Green 2. It's still people. Like Soylent Green 3. You thought they stopped, but it's still people. All right, there you go. So that was our list there. We destructed and deconstructed as well, the Donald Trump thing. We deconstructed. We attacked Will's list. Once again, you can check that out, sci-fi-gangsters.com. It's in 2 parts, right? The first 50, and the next one is 50 down to number 1. All right. What do you think? Don't forget to like it, and you hit that notification, smash that like button. Okay. Anyway, so there you go. That's our topic for today. It's time to move on to trivia.
We can move on to trivia. I have it right here, ready to go.
Now,
I
definitely have no chance with both Jeremy and Will here. There's no point of me even trying.
Name your favorite Madden game. No.
Oh, okay.
You win. No. Okay, so we'll hit categories. Will, you probably know how to play Raise is Geek Out. I'll say name. How many of blank can you name? Give me a number. Whoever has the highest number will have to prove it. And if they prove it, they win the round. Simple as that. All right. So first we're going to start off with spouses of superheroes. Okay, so how many mortal spouses of superheroes can you name?
Mortal, so not
mortal spouses of superheroes can you name? Think about it. Write them down if you need to.
Can I look at my...
Give you...
so we mean non-superhero.
Non-superhero spouses. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like ever? Because like
probably
pretty much everyone I can think of.
Probably.
There's some storyline where they did, found a suit and did something.
There's always that one thing. I would say ever, yeah. Let's ever.
Hmm.
Give me another couple of seconds to think about it. All right. Anybody got 2?
Yeah, I got 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4.
Yeah, I think I got 5.
Yeah, 5.
I mean,
Also
that's-
5. All right, Anthony, you got 6.
Oh.
I don't know where you're looking.
Looking around my office and seeing my comic books.
Cheating.
Yeah, it's cheating. He's like, "Where's that Google thing?" When
Actually, I can do 7.
oh, Will's got
Go
7
ahead
now.
here.
Goodness, might as well just take it.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
let's
how
take
about
Will. Will, you got the 7. Let's see what you got, bud.
Okay, so Lois Lane for Superman. For 2 different Flashes, there's Iris West Allen for the Barry Allen Flash, and then there's Linda Park for the Wally West Flash.
Okay.
Moira Taggart marries Professor X at some points in the X-Men. Again, these things like Jeremy was saying, there's all these different other ways you can kind of rate it. Mary Jane Watson for Spider-Man, which was then undone and the worst thing Marvel ever did. So was that's 5, I think. And then Catwoman, Selena Kyle, not as Super, marries Batman in the Earth 2, the Golden Age Batman and Catwoman get married and then have kids and then die old. And then I had another one. Trying to think about who I had. It was Marvel.
No, these guys.
Oh, Pepper Potts. Not in the comics. Not in the comics, but in the MCU, Pepper marries Tony, and then Jane marries and is the War at different points. Again, kind of like a lot of the characters become super for brief periods and then stop being super, so you can kind of look at it that way too. But so that's 8.
Okay.
All right, there you go.
Will wins the round on that one. All right, Anthony, I believe in you on this one, but I think you can have this one. Okay, you're just going to own the day with this one because you're going to be able to name the most films in which a character dies and then comes back to life.
In the same movie?
In the same movie.
My goodness.
In the same movie.
Well, I don't think he does come back in the same movie. Yeah, he doesn't come back in the same movie either.
Yep, what movie? Movies with where a character dies and then comes back to life. Same movie. I believe in you, Anthony. You can do it. You can win all the Twizzlers. It's going to happen. Give you a few more seconds. Jeremy questioning his beliefs right now. Will looking confident as ever. Oh, by the way, Will, where do you stand on Demolition Man on your list?
As a movie, I enjoy it. It's good, cheesy '90s fun.
Yeah. 3
I
seashells.
probably-
right?
just on the ridiculousness level, I probably like Judge Dredd a little more.
Oh yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And then and that's another movie that got ruled out on the comic book thing, Dredd. The new one with Carl Urban would have definitely been a contender for the list.
I didn't see the new one. I saw the
Yeah,
old one,
check it out. It's underrated. It really is. People should have watched it more, but it wasn't really marketable because it's much more like the Dredd comics, which are pretty brutal. But I think people would know it more now because the actors who were in it are more famous now than they were then.
That's fair. All right, who's got 4? Anybody got 4 characters that have come back to life? Same movie.
I got 4.
Anthony has 4. Okay. Anybody have 5?
I was talking and I kind of forgot what all the ones I had just now. I could have wrote them down.
There you go. That was the I was distracting you so Anthony could
Yeah,
take the lead.
it's rope-a-dope there.
There's got to be so many, like.
With it being in the same movie, that makes it tough because that rules out some.
That rules out
Yeah,
what?
and literally dying and literally coming back also makes it difficult.
I've got 4. I know, just talking right now.
Anyone with 5?
Anthony's
No,
got
I
five.
can do.
Oh, Anthony said 5. Oh, Will's got 6. Okay.
My
7
goodness.
to you, Jeremy or Anthony. Nope, Jeremy's tapping out.
I'm out. Yeah.
Okay, Jeremy's tapped out. All right, Anthony, you got 7.
Hold on. There's got to be like
There's probably hundreds
6.
of them.
There's got to be like a film.
There is. I promise.
I mean, can we just name everyone in Flatliners?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got one.
So you have 7.
7.
All right, Will, 8 to you.
I can. Yeah, I think I can do 8.
And we're talking like comes back to life in the same
yeah,
body and same manner
yes,
and everything.
same manner.
Right?
Same- yeah.
There's some franchises that once
You
hit them,
dead,
they're
now you
fine.
back. Yeah.
Right. We're not talking vampires or any.
Correct. Yeah, where this is not a vampire thing. This is not like you just got bit, you died, and now you're a vampire. And then, yeah, Anthony's like, well, there went 6 of mine.
No.
Okay, let's see what Anthony's got first. Let's see what you got. Because I think your list just got demolished with that right there.
Neo in the Matrix.
Okay.
Ben Solo dies, and what's her name brings him back. Remember?
Okay.
Lois Lane dies in the original Superman. He brings her back.
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah.
Crank dies a bunch of times. The guy in Crank.
Yeah, that was 2 of mine.
Lucky and 101 Dalmatians. He died.
Come on.
He's dead.
I mean, okay.
You're technically right.
Vision dies. But But Thanos brings him back for a little bit. Kills him
But
again.
was he literally living anyway?
Sure. Doesn't Aslan?
Just to give Theseus real quick.
Why wouldn't he be?
Hash that out.
Yeah,
Because he's just code running on a platform.
And this one's questionable because I don't know if it happened. Does Aslan come back in the same movie or does he come back in the next one? From The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Does he come back in the same movie or in the next one? I cannot.
He does not come back in the same movie because he dies.
And he raises again on the third day.
Almost like he's based on a particular
Oh, okay.
literary character.
So technically, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see what you got.
Well, I have the 2 Crank movies and both versions of Awakenings, which were mentioned.
Okay.
Because there's the old one that's kind of good, and then there's the new one that nobody watched. So that's 4. There's 3 Reanimator movies. Reanimator 1 is great, and that was one of the movies on the list actually. Then there's 2 not as good sequels, and then the other one is the worst plot turn I think I've ever seen is Star Trek Into Darkness, when Kirk dies and then comes back to life, and then they try to. So I'd say kind of that's a cheap 8. I'll admit. Cheap 8.
That's
I forgot
fair.
about the Star Wars one that
fair game.
Anthony mentioned. And then you rule out Superman and the Snyder Justice League movies because he's not the same movie. Spock in the original Star Trek dude is not the same movie.
Yeah.
I don't think Gandalf technically dies. They make it seem like he did, but he
doesn't
think
die.
he's dead, and then he comes back. Same with Barbossa from the first Pirates of the Caribbean, which they were kind of already dead anyway.
That's true.
So yeah, there's a lot of them that you can stretch out over 6 franchises, but yeah. So that's it for me.
Okay.
Kind of rigged at the end of Lethal Weapon 2 because you think he's like almost dead at the end, but then he comes back. But I don't count that one.
Okay. This
I
one,
think I get extra points for bringing up Lucky in 101
I think you do.
Dalmatians.
I feel it.
we're gonna give that
I can't
round
believe I
to
forgot Lois Lane.
we're gonna give that round to Anthony because why not?
Okay, all
Why
right.
not? All right, this one's for all the Twizzlers. All right, you ready? How many citrus flavored sodas can you name? Let's make it simple. Citrus flavored sodas, guys. Come on.
Define
likes-
soda.
A carbonated beverage.
Okay.
We're gonna say the carbonated citrus flavored beverage. And adding lemon or orange to soda water does not count. Let's just go ahead and name brand these, okay? I like to keep things simple. It's how my brain works, very simple. I mean, I do like the Matrix trilogy. You know, simple brain. Okay. Give you a few more seconds. Think about it.
And we are not allowing like this and then diet this, right?
Right? Yeah. No.
Okay.
No.
Just saying this for Anthony's benefit.
Yeah, I know. He would have had a list of
Hey,
100.
watch it. Don't.
Now you can mention the diet one, but that's it. That's all you get. You can't mention the regular one.
Citrus flavored soda.
Yep. And there are a lot of them. I have a list I can reference. My gosh. My word, there's a lot. There's a lot didn't even know existed. Okay. All right, who's got 5? Anybody got 5?
Yeah, I've got how many?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've got 8.
8. All right. We'll go to
I've
10.
got like about 14.
14. Nice.
I'm not gonna be able to beat that.
Okay, let's hear the 14, Will.
Okay, so let me see if I can remember all this. Now, Aunt remembers my Sunkist Lust from the radio station. I don't drink it like I used to. I don't drink it at all because it's like the sweetest stuff ever. But so we'll start with orange soda: Sunkist, Minute Maid, Fanta, Crush.
Wait, is
Knee
Minute
High.
Maid carbonated?
No, not lemonade. Minute Maid soda.
There's a Minute Maid soda. Oh,
Yeah, there
I
it
guess I didn't.
They may
know
not
that.
have it anymore, but I remember
Okay.
I remember hating it when I was a kid because they get it for me instead of Sunkist and it sucked. So
Okay.
so Sunkist, Minute Maid, Knee High, Crush, Fanta is 5. For lemon lime, Sprite 6, 7 Up is 7, conveniently. Upper 10 is 8. I think they still make that. L8 one, which is a really actually good one from Kentucky that a friend of mine gave me once, was 9. Sun Drop 10. Sierra Mist 11.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have Coke that has like orange in it. Let's get that. So the Mountain Dew is citrus flavored, right?
So
It
Mountain Dew
sucks.
is citrus.
Mountain Dew, Mellow Yellow, and Surge,
Gosh, Surge.
Surge.
Oh my word, I forgot about
And,
Surge.
and then like LaCroix, I guess.
That's fair. Yep. Okay. All right. All right. Any of those on your list, Anthony, that were not on?
I think he said
Those
everyone except for Zevia. He didn't say Zevia.
Okay.
Okay.
And did you say Sprite? I don't think I heard
He
you
did say Sprite. Yeah.
He
he
said
said
Yeah,
Sprite.
I started the lemon lime, but it was
Yeah. Sprite.
Cool.
Well done. And now everybody can get a lifetime supply of Sprite. Let's go.
We'll win.
Will
Will
takes-
win that one.
Will takes the lifetime supply of Twizzlers. Enjoy.
That concludes our trivia. That concludes the show. Thank you, Will, so much for being on the show and talking about this science fiction and what makes a science fiction and why you're wrong for putting films in certain parts of your lists. But yeah, that's our show. Don't forget to listen to us on YouTube and Spotify and and Apple Music, all the other kind of stuff. You can listen to us. You can listen to us in podcast form and in YouTube form. And definitely check out sci-fi-gangsters.com, where you can check out Will's list of the top 100 science fiction films. It's in 2 parts, so read both. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you, Will, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. For Acid Train and Jeremy, I'm Anthony Denard. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good one.